Our story begins in the mountains of British Columbia, Canada. Now, I'm not from British Columbia. I'm actually from Ontario. Small town Ontario is where I'm from. But when I was 18 years old, me and my best friend, Keegan Early, decided it would be a good coming-of-age adventure for us to journey off into the mountains to see what sort of adventures we might find in the mountaintops, in the peaks, in the snowy hills. And we wound up finding our way to a hippie town that we had heard of that was super cool for young people to go to. This town was crawling with hippies. The smell of patchouli wafted through the streets. Red eyes. There was dispensaries, even though it was over 10 years before those became legal. They were selling weed in stores everywhere. And for a young 18-year-old from small town Ontario, this place was pretty frickin' cool. Let me tell you about that. It was pretty cool to us. Still is. Why not? I like hippies. I like hippies. I am a hippie. I like them. I like my own people. We ended up going to a coffee shop in the mornings. I'm not going to tell you the name of this coffee shop. I'm also not going to tell you the name of the cult, because that will draw you close to forbidden information. You might go looking for it, and then I would be responsible for you falling down a deep well of cult-like activities, and I can't live with that, Romshinators. I'm a man of God. I cannot lead my Romshinators down the wrong path. But we did end up going to a coffee shop. We sat down, we ordered our yerba mate teas that were suggested to us by the 70-year-old barista. He had a magnificent man bun, full of gray hairs. He smelt of patchouli, but so did everybody in this town. Anyways, we ended up having a seat within earshot of this older gentleman. And like two 18-year-olds often do, we began to talk about God, and our thoughts about God, and our thoughts about spirituality, and our beliefs, or lack thereof. I forget exactly what we were saying. We were pontificating. Teenage pontifications were taking place within earshot of this older gentleman, and that is something that he wanted to be a part of. So he slid a chair over, took a seat beside us, and said, "I noticed you guys were talking about God. What do you think the deal is with this God guy anyway? Do you think he's even real? Do you feel like he's watching you with his little eyes? Do you think his son died and came back to life? What do you guys think?" He wanted to know. He was interested in what we had to say. He was interested in what R to the OMC and my best friend Keegan Early had to say about God. And we talked to him for a little while, and he seemed cool. He seemed switched on. Cool old guy, serving up tea. And you know what? It just so happens he was having a party at his place later. He was having a party at his house later, and we were invited. What a fantastic turn of events. A party. We could meet girls. We could make friends. We could try drugs and alcohol. We already had tried these, but still, we could try them again that night at the party. That's what we were imagining. We're going to go there. It's going to be hippie girls, drugs, sex, rock and roll. We had no idea. We had no idea that it was not that type of party at all. But we found out. We found out later that night because this older gentleman told us to meet him back there at the coffee shop at 5 p.m. Typical time to start a party, right? 5 p.m. We thought nothing of it. Oh, what it is to be young. We thought nothing of it. Flash forward. It's 5 p.m. We go back to the coffee shop. We're back at the coffee shop, but the old man isn't there. It's somebody else. Somebody else is there. It's a younger man. Red hair. Shining circular glasses sit atop his angular nose. Ginger strands falling from his magnificent man bun across his cheekbones as he sat there on a picnic table eating arugula salad with metal chopsticks. He asked us to take a seat. He says, "Boys, my van is right over there. I'm just having a quick salad before we go to this party." We look behind to see a creepy sort of van sitting there on the side of the street. That would be our chariot. That would be our party wagon for the evening. But he says, "Before we get in the party chariot wagon, I need you to answer one question for me, boys." And he took a long look at his arugula salad and said, "What do you think it means to be a good person?" Honestly, I forget what we said. This was a long time ago. I forget what the answer is. I don't just want to make up an answer because I'm telling the story in a dramatic way. I forget what I said was the answer. I forget. I totally forget what the answer was. But in hindsight, this was long before the days of Uber, ride shares. Two 18-year-old guys had showed up to a strange coffee shop in a strange land to meet a stranger and get into a strange van. He shouldn't have been asking any questions. He hit the jackpot. He hit the jackpot. We were a sure thing, man. Get us in the van. Take us to the commune. But he had questions he needed to ask. And that was the only question he asked. He liked our answer. And he said, "All right, boys, let's go to the party." Get in the van. We were flowing like a teardrop down the face of an ancient statue. We were riding in a van with a ginger cult member named Matthew. The wheels, they spun through the mountainous terrain. We were off to the party, hoping it would not be lame. Eventually, we arrived at the cult compound, at the commune, and we were given a tour. There was chickens, cows, roosters, dogs, cats. There was a whole building that was just women in bonnets making bread. You see, they weren't Amish. They were like half Amish. They were half Amish people. Amish in appearance, but they drove cars. They probably had one cell phone between the lot of them. I don't know. I don't know what the exact regiment was, but it would appear to the layman as potentially an Amish community. Upon closer inspection, you will notice they are not completely Amish. So, definitely a strange vibe. I don't remember much of this tour, but I do remember the dinner. We were seated at an extremely long table. There was probably about 50 or 60 people all in the room together. We were served a meal of rice and vegetables, and it was really quite delicious. It really was. They had a large vat of yerba mate, which was their sacred drink. And I drank so much of this yerba mate that I got all hopped up. I got all excited. You know, this wasn't the party I was hoping for, but god damn it, I was gonna get fucked up any way I could. And if it had to be on this tea, that's what was gonna happen. So I drank a lot of this yerba mate. And I talked to people. And seated across from me was a couple. It was a woman of about 30 and a man of about 75. The woman told me that before she joined the cult, she was a drug addict on her way to the grave, that she would be dead without the cult, and that her family did not understand, but the results that she got from the cult spoke for themselves. I would like to be clear also saying that they didn't refer to it as a cult, of course, but for the sake of the story, you know, I am going to refer to it as a cult. She said her family did not understand, but that the results spoke for themselves. Her husband chimed in and said that he was actually a deadhead, a follower of the Grateful Dead, who had spent many years doing lots of acid, following this band around, and eventually found this cult, this group, and just joined the cult. So he went from deadhead to cult head. Deadhead, cult guy. There's a pipeline there. I don't know. I know the kids these days, they like to say pipeline. Have you heard of the Grateful Dead to cult member pipeline? Anyways. I thought that was pretty cool at the time, too. In fact, I still do. Seated to their right was a guy I could kind of tell was the odd man out. You know, I could kind of tell people didn't really like this guy. I don't think he had a wife. I don't think he had any kids. He might have been like a newer member of the cult. But he looks at me and says, "Hey man, how are you liking the metal chopsticks?" Because we had to eat with metal chopsticks. There was nothing else. That was the cutlery. Metal chopsticks, 100%. He says, "You know, we chose metal chopsticks because there's no Asian members of this group. And we want to attract some Asian people. We want them to feel at home, so we decided we would eat with metal chopsticks because it's less wasteful, and maybe they'll like it. And maybe we can get some Asian members." And I could tell as he was saying this, the looks and all the people around him were cringing because this obviously wasn't true. I think it was a joke, but he couldn't really deliver it. I felt bad for this guy. I felt like he probably wasn't living his best life there, like he didn't fit in, you know, and I kind of connected with that in my own little way. After dinner, the party really began. We all stood up and we held hands, got in a circle, and we jumped and danced around. We danced to the songs of their people. You see, they told me that they only listen to music from within their group. Anything else is completely prohibited, restricted. No music from the outside world, only music written by members of the group, members of the cult. And we danced to this music all night, and I remember it was pretty damn good. It slapped, as the kids said. Like I keep hitting this little chord. I remember the music was pretty damn good, you know? And it was this old guy playing it, just stomping on the ground, playing. They had little tambourines. We were dancing in circles. And eventually, as we were dancing, this one dude kind of pulled me aside. And he just beamed at me with his eyes. He looked right into my soul. You know, he looked right into my goddamn soul. And he started telling me about how the love that he had for his community, and the love that he had for his family and his wife and his children, how that love was so much greater than the pain of this world. and the stress of trying to raise a child in this modern age and trying to live a peaceful and godly existence in a world of sin, that the love overpowered all that. And he said, as long as I've been here in this group, I don't have to worry about who's going to love me. I know I belong here. I know I am welcome here forever till the end of time. As long as I do right by the Lord above, I know I have a place here. And I gotta be honest with you guys. Only a few weeks before I took this trip, my parents had gotten divorced. And I was feeling very sad and very lonely. And I felt like there was no love in my life. Because maybe there wasn't. I was the perfect candidate for this group, for this cult. And I did honestly think about staying there, you know? But I knew that my destiny was to actually move to Toronto and join failing rock and roll bands. And get tinnitus. So I couldn't stay. I couldn't join the cult. I knew my destiny was elsewhere. I knew that I had to fulfill my dream. They did ask us if we wanted to stay the night. And by that, I'm sure they meant stay indefinitely. But they had promised us previously a ride back to the hostel where we were staying. So I said, hey, you guys said you'd give us a ride back. Please do as you promised. This has been a wonderful time, but we must get back. I think I made up some excuse about what we had to do. We had to do something. We had to pack up and head out of town the next day, something like that. And they did. They drove us right back, you know. And they gave us a big hug, and they gave us some nice homemade yerba mate infused chocolate bars to take on the road with us, and they were tasty and delicious. I never saw them again. Well, thanks for listening, Romshinators. That was my story of spending one night with a cult. This is a new idea I've been working on where I tell a story with a bunch of gadgets in front of me. And I'm just kind of working out the kinks. I don't think I've really got it yet, but I'm trying. I've been trying this for a while. And hopefully this is the video that's going to be the first one. I mean, I feel like there's a few problems with this one. I feel like I kind of was bending over too much. I was slouching. I feel like I maybe didn't mess with the board enough. I'm not sure. But if you have any thoughts on it, please let me know. Because I think it's kind of a cool idea. Anyways, see you later, Romshinators. Stay safe.